Hey guys, this is editorial analysis for 18th September 2016. So let's go to the first editorial. It talks about the recent events at NACO, that is National AIDS Control Organization. It says that in 2008, NACO launched the Prevention of Parent to Child Transmission Program. So, in this program, outreach workers who worked with NGOs that work for HIV positive people. So these outreach workers, they used to go out to hospitals and they used to help HIV positive women with their medication and monitoring their newborn babies. This is because these women face discrimination and abusive behavior at the hospitals from the doctors and the nurses. In December last year, the scheme was ended. That is, the prevention of parent to child transmission scheme was ended due to the lack of funds. It rendered the outreach workers jobless and without any state support. So, this is a new addition to funding cuts to NACO by the government, and this is something that should be addressed very quickly because I think that HIV positive people need state support. So, this is a matter of concern. So, let's move on to the second editorial. It talks about chikungunya. It says that it is spread by a virus transmitted by a female mosquito. This is because a female mosquito needs protein from mammalian blood for her eggs to develop. Certain viruses like dengue and chikungunya are collectively called arboviruses. A and R in capital letters. Arboviruses, whose full form is arthropod-borne viruses. These arboviruses also used the protein in mammalian blood to ensure their own survival. Initially, these viruses infected only monkeys in forests, and later they made humans also their host. It cannot spread from one human to another. Now let's talk about chikungunya. The editorial says that chikungunya attacks muscles, joints, and skin fibroblasts. So it causes joint pain, swelling, rashes, and acute fever. People with low immunity, diabetes, and cardiovascular diseases are particularly its worst victims. Though not fatal, that means people cannot die of chikungunya, it results in prolonged physical disability. So, what does this editorial suggest we should do about it? So, it says that early diagnosis is a must to treat chikungunya. But at present, we have no virus specific detection method. We only have antibody specific testing, which delays diagnosis. So, that is one problem with diagnosis of chikungunya. For those patients who have dengue and chikungunya both, what doctors do is that they use transcription polymerase chain reaction test to identify it. It's called transcription polymerase chain reaction test, but it is not possible in hospitals with very big patient load, and also this sort of test requires high-end infrastructure and trained personnel, which not all the hospitals have. So and vector control is very difficult in this case because every time an outbreak of chikungunya happens, we find that the virus that chikungunya virus that the mosquitoes are carrying, it has mutated itself and it is spreading more efficiently, and this has happened in 2003 and 2010. So in 2003 and 2010, when there were outbreaks of chikungunya, we found out that the viruses, they had mutated themselves, so it's very hard to control them. So what are the prevention methods? So the editorial says that intense vector control and public health awareness programs, curbing mosquito population before monsoon starts. So before monsoon, we have to do all the fogging and all the monitoring and awareness programs that we do every year. So that should help to some extent. So that's about chikungunya. Now let's move on to the third editorial. it talks about, the author of this editorial talks about his alternative suggestions for the problems in Jammu and Kashmir. So he says that we must repeal AFSPA, that is Armed Forces Special Powers Act, and put in a more humane law. We should not leave a vacuum there by removing AFSPA and not putting anything else in place. We should put in a more humane law in the valley. Also, army should withdraw only to the border areas so that we seal the border and we sort of curb the infiltrators and terrorists that are coming from across the border. And this will also show our trust in our Kashmiri citizens. So also what we should do is, the author suggests that we should appoint interlocutors to hold talks with the stakeholders. And one more step we can take is that we should ask the state legislature of Jammu and Kashmir to do a comprehensive review of union laws that apply to them. This is because people of Jammu and Kashmir feel that the union laws of India should not apply to their state under Article 370. And the state legislature should do a review of all these laws, and the ones that are not necessary, they can repeal them. So this will also give them some sort of satisfaction. Now these are the views of the author. Now this is on J&K problem. Now let's move on to the next editorial. It says, this was actually yesterday, I hadn't included it yesterday, so I'm including it in today's notes. This says that Germany has unveiled a new technology. It's called UNIPER, UNIPER. What it would do is that it would allow the thermal power plants to start up in just an hour. So, but why is this a good thing? It is a good thing because currently any thermal power plant requires 24 hours to start working. So what this UNIPER will do is that it will make it easier to rev up the renewables like solar and wind energy. They would make it possible to operate coal fueled stations to produce peaking power. What is peaking power? So there are when the load is high and suddenly the demand for electricity rises, certain stations start producing. These are called peaking stations. So they produce electricity only when the demand rises and there is not enough electricity to supply. So this would help in that regard. Currently, peaking power stations are fueled by expensive natural gas, and they also have lots of logistical problems. Of course they'll have, because if you are allowed to all of a sudden asked to start producing electricity, then of course you're going to have to make it happen with inputs that are more expensive, and then there are of course going to be logistical problems on everyday basis. So what this UNIPER will also do is that it will allow better grid connection to renewable powers. It will be possible to start a thermal power station when the sun goes down and when the solar power plants are not working. Its installation requires upgradation of plant machinery and upskilling of personnel. So that's it for today, September the 18th, 2016, the editorials. Thank you.